Mamer Basi Ligani on page Yud Gimel, close to Ois Gimel, but we're holding where it says Omnam. In this contrast, the first word in the line is Chad. Omnam Kivim Shebishneim. So B'kitzur, the point we learned yesterday, the Rebbe explained based on the Vart of the Baal Shem Tov and the way the Alter Rebbe explains the Vart of the Baal Shem Tov, that there are two worlds, Eilam Ein Sof and Eilam Atzilus, and they're different. Because Eilam Atzilus is a place where the Rebbe says there's a Yechilis for Kalim, and there's even the actual Metzias of Kalim. Whereas in Eilam Ein Sof, over there, it's just Eiris, it's revelations without defined Kalim at all. So therefore, the Rebbe says, just like we usually know, the Lashon that it says regarding Atzilus itself, Iyu v'chayoyichad, Iyu v'garmoyichad, that they're both one with Hashem. They're both there's a yichud with the Eibishter, but the level of yichud in both of them is not the same. When you talk about the yichud of Kalim, there's a metzias of Kalim, and that metzias of Kalim senses what it's really connected to, what it really is, which is the godliness which is higher than the Kalim. But there's something which is becoming one. Right, there's a certain mitzias, so the whole, in the end of the day, even after it senses what it's one with, it's a dova noisef to its mitzias. It's not essentially mamish one. Whereas the achtos of Iyu v'chayoyichad is a deeper achtos. There it's mamish one, and that's the achtos that there is in the worlds higher than Atzilus. Okay, so let's continue inside there. Amnam, however, kivim shebishneim huchad. In both of these Eilamus, whether Eilamus Ein Sof, whether Eilam Atzilus, the Achtus of the Eibishter is sensed and experienced there. The Loike Beilam is Biyah, unlike the lower worlds of Biyah, Sheheim B'Pchinas Nefrodim. They are separated of the Eibishter. Is Hinei Alzeh Mevayer Ba Mamer. This is what he explains in the Mamer B'Negela Eilamus Ein Sof. That both regarding Eilam Ein Sof and regarding Eilam Atzilus, she'ein pele klal ha'oir Ein Sof meisham begili, that it's not a pele. This is not the pele that Oir Ein Sof is shining there begili. The Fidei Rabbi uses this a very strong lashon. Ein pele klal. It's not a pele at all. There's no union of pele here b'chlal. That Oir Ein Sof is there. Why? Shaharem kalim lo Oir Ein Sof, because they're Kalim. There's the union of Chad. They're ba'achtos with the Eibishter. So if so, they're Kalim. V'hainu mitzad inyan ha'achtos. Kiv misha achtos hi keli lekabel Oir Ein Sof. The achtos that is sensed and is experienced there, they feel they're Kalim. They're a lakus, and therefore they're able to sense what's higher than them. They're one with what's higher than them, and therefore they can be Kalim to be makabel Oir Ein Sof. Shalachein gam akalim datzilus hareim elakos mamish. Even kalim datzilus are elakos mamish. Shaharei iyu v'garmoi chat, because the Eibishter and the kalim are all one. So this lashon that he says that the kalim are elakos mamish. What does this mean that the kalim are elakos mamish? What's meant elakos mamish? There's a lakos mamish. What does that mean? So just again to review the point with Kitzur that I mentioned yesterday, that the emes is that the Kalim of Atzilus, which are the Spheres, take Chesed, right? Chesed is a specific tzir that is completely, be'ein aroich, has absolutely no comparison to Elokus. What's Elokus? When it says that the Lashon Elokus mamish means the Eibishter, which is Pshitas, where there's you can't give any description. It's not defined in any way. So what's Chesed? The fact Chesed has a certain tzir, that's be'ein aroich to the revelation of Ihu, which has no tzir at all. So and the Rebbe says, but nevertheless, the Kalim are also Elokos mamish, meaning that Elokos mamish, which is what Ihu is, the Eibishter himself, which is Poshet, without any tzir, really the Kalim themselves are also Elokos mamish. The Kalim is an inyan of Chesed, so it's already a tzir of Chesed. It's not just a Elokos mamish that doesn't have a certain description. But he's saying, but it's not so though. That's the chiddush of Iyu v'garmoi chad, that even though l'chayre it has a tzir, but nevertheless, what is this tzir? This tzir is completely Elokos mamish. So there's 2 points to this. One point is, before you understand the inyan of Chad, before you understand the concept of Elokos Mamish, the first thing you have to understand about Atzilus is that Atzilus is a revelation of godliness. Atzilus is the Eibishter being able to express himself. Atzilus is not an Indian of creation. That's number one. And the Chiddush here is that the Eibishter is able to express himself in things, in an existence, in a way which is completely bein areich to him. How and why? Because the Eibishter is bli gvul. A human being, b'shas, he expresses himself in any way, whether it's an idea or whether it's an emotion, whatever it is. He could only express himself to an extent. He can come down and express himself further and further in a limited fashion. Every person has a koyach tzimtzum. Just like l'mayla there's a concept of tzimtzum, by a human being there's also a koyach tzimtzum. How far could a person be mitzamtzum himself? To something which is be'erech. You can't be mitzamtzum yourself to be mashpia or to extend and express yourself in something which has no erech to you. You're not there. You can't reach there. You have no koyach to be in a place which is bli gvul. The Eibishter could be mitzamtzum himself and lower himself down and express himself through the kelim of Atzilus, which is completely be'ein areich to him. And it's him, it's the Eibishter. He's expressing himself in these kelim. That's the first nekuda. Then the second nekuda is, now these kelim d'Atzilus gufe, they sense that their source, which is higher than their own tziyah. Chesed, if you want to look at the keli, the chetzenius of the keli, for what it is, it's an union of chesed. But chesed itself senses that who am I, what's my real mitzvahs? I'm just here to express the Eibishter himself, which is unlimited. The whole idea that the Eibishter expresses himself through chesed is really a koyach of bli gvul. So that nekuda, that this chesed is the union of bli gvul, in the world of chesed itself, the keli of chesed itself senses that who am I? I'm just an expression of the Eibishter himself, which is a lakus mamish, where there's no chesed, which is higher than chesed. I'm just an expression of that bli gvul. That's the real achdus of the kelim. So that explains the point that you brought up, the negaya to the lashon that he explains, that Atzilus is, what's the mashal for Atzilus? It's a guf and a neshama. Why is this the mashal for Atzilus, guf and a neshama? So if you think about the mashal of guf and the neshama, it makes mamish this point of these two opposite things. On one hand, the guf is be'ein areich to the neshama. As Chassidus says, the connection of guf and neshama, this is ruchni, this is gashmi. So it's complete. There's no connecting point between them. It's completely be'ein areich. Just like the kelim of Atzilus, which are completely be'ein areich to the Oyer Eliki, the Elikus that is being expressed through these kelim. Completely be'ein areich. That's on one hand. On the other hand, what's the story with this guf? What's the story with the kelim of Atzilus? The Eibishter is expressed through these kelim. It's not that the Eibishter is creating a guf or something that's not him. The Eibishter is being expressed in this guf, and what kind of a eifin? That he becomes completely one with the kelim. Just like in the guf. The guf and the neshama become one. The neshama is alive in the guf, and the life of the neshama is expressed through the guf. It's not, and the guf senses the neshama in it. It's not two separate entities. It becomes one thing mamish. Same thing l'mayla. The chiddush of the whole chiddush of Atzilus is that it's something which is be'ein areich, but yet the Eibishter is expressed there. That's his koyach of bli gvul that he's expressed in these low things. This be'ein areich.
So that's even a higher level than the Ein Sof itself.
What do you mean?
Because the Ein Sof is limited.
No.
This shows that
this is the expression of koyach ha'ein sof, that because the Eibishter is so unlimited, he's able to express himself and reveal himself in kelim, which is be'ein areich to him. But look here, the thing is, sof, the Rabbi is saying that the achdus over here in these kelim, when you look at the kelim themselves, the Eibishter is expressing himself in the metzias of kelim. There is a tzimtzum here. The Eibishter is being mitzamtzum himself. And that's how kelim come into being. So when you look at the kelim, there's a concept also called chetzenius kelim. If you look at the kelim, there's a tzir, there's an existence of kelim. Elamai, what's the emes, what's the pnimius, what's the real mahus of those kelim? They're here expressing the bli gvul of the Eibishter, that he's able to be mashpia to such a low place, and it's all him, and he's there. It's not going away from him. It's not nifrat chas v'shalom. Atzilus is all alakus. That's the chiddush of the world of Atzilus. Okay, now, so the interesting thing is, in this sense, there's a tremendous expression of bli gvul in the world of Atzilus. This is all the koyach of the Eibishter of bli gvul, that the Eibishter comes down into the kelim, right? But still, the Rebbe says in this, that's not the pella. Ein pella klal da'orin seif meir shom begilui. That's not the pella that the Eibishter could be expressed, and the Eibishter could be in a place which is be'ein areich to who he is. That's not the pella. Why not? Because it's sof, it's all within the framework of Elokus. The fact that the Eibishter is able to express himself, bli gvul, this Atzilus expresses also a certain ein sof, a koyach of bli gvul, that the Eibishter is able to come down to something which is completely not be'erech to him. In Tanya, the Alter Rebbe says, kulam b'chachma asisa, chachma da Atzilus, the fact that there's a mitzvah so that could be defined as chachma, is be'ein erech to the Eibishter just like asiyah. But that's the taich of kulam b'chachma asisa. That chachma and asiyah is the same thing by the Eibishter. Or sometimes it says it's the same thing, or sometimes it says that by the Eibishter, Chachma has no erech to him, just like Asiyah has no erech to the Eibishter. So really it's very low. This expresses the koyach of the Eibishter. The Eibishter is able to express himself in the spheres of Atzilos, and the Eibishter is mispashet in a place which is so far from him, so low, so be'ein hareich, like a guf comparing to the neshama. But the Rebbe says, and this ain't pella. This ain't pella klal. This is not the pella. Where's the pella? The pella is dafkin olam is biyah. That the Eibishter is mispashet into a place which is separated from him, a place where the Eibishter creates, which is not an extension of Gilui Elokos, but the Eibishter creates an outside existence, an existence of something else. That's a deeper union. That's another kind of a koyach that comes through Sfiras HaMalchus, the koyach of creating a new world which is completely separated from the Eibishter. That's the real Pella. Over there is the real Pella that the Eibishter can be Nizgala, the Eibishter can be Mispashit, and the Eibishter can be Nizgala there. L'chein, you can't say that the Maila, the big advantage, that we say that Eirin Seif Lamata Din Tachlis, Koya La Gilivas Pashtas Bailam Asein Seif, that it refers to this, that the Eibishter reveals himself. And he's mispashet in the worlds of Ein Seif, Bailam Atzilos, and even in the world of Atzilos, Kivin She'ein Ze Pella Klal. This is not considered to be a Pella. Okay? So again, the very point that the Friedrich Rebbe is negating that it's not a Pella. He wouldn't say that he wouldn't have to come and you don't have to have this whole arichis to say that it's not a Pella if there's no chiddush here. He's telling you that it's not a Pella because there's a very big chiddush in what he's saying. Even though it's be'ein hareich, and there is an expression of the koyach of ein sof to come down to the mitzias of kalim, but still that's not the Pella. The Pella is dafken olam is biyah. Why? Because olam is biyah is nifred. It's separated from it's the koyach of the Eibishter to come down to a place which is outside of Elokos. That's the real Pella. Because the point is sof in the worlds of Atzilus. It's all in the worlds of Elokos. It's all the Eibishter expressing himself in such a kind of a oifen that the Eibishter is found there. That it's all within the framework of Elokos. The Eibishter is taka bli gvul. The Eibishter is able to be mispashet much further and much more, or be'ein hareich more, than the way we know it in limited beings. But nevertheless, that koyach of bli gvul means that, so where is the Eibishter going to be mispashet? Where is he found? Even tak if it's a bli gvul ispashtos. But the bli gvul ispashtos is in a place of Elokos, in a place where it's him, where he's expressing himself. How about in a place which is not him, so to speak? A place which is outside of him, a place which is separated of him? Is the Eibishter there as well? Does Eirin Seif reach there as well? That's the Pella. Even if it's a tremendous Pella that the Eibishter is coming down to something which is be'ein hareich, the ein hareich is not a chiddush, because ein hareich still means it's within a certain framework. It's within a certain system. There's a certain geder over here. The geder is a place which is Elokos. The Eibishter is bli gvul, it can be mispashet in that place of Elokos. The fact that the Eibishter could be where he is not, think about that. He could be where he is not. That's really what the idea of nifrad is. The Eibishter creates another mitzias, which is not him. What does it mean that the Eibishter creates another mitzias which is not him? Everything is him. Everything is the Eibishter. Hagufa is a big deer. Here is the Pella. This is the greatness of the Eibishter, that there's a mitzias of a world which is not him, and the Eibishter is there. He's there as well. That's the real Pella. It's like it doesn't make sense. This is a Pella which you can't define. We have no way of explaining what this is supposed to mean. The Eibishter is in a place which is nifra. The taich of the words nifra is it's separated from him. It's not him, and he's there. He's mispashet. He's befedish there. That's called a Pella. That's a real Pella. It's a Pella which is completely undefined.
The Pella is the Gav of the Maila or the Gav of the Matan?
Okay, so there's the taich it says in Chassidus.
I'll
answer right now as much as I can. There's in last week's Torah, the Alter Rebbe, in the second Mamer, there Oster Lagefen Irei, the Alter Rebbe teiches two things that we say every day in davening. in a beautiful way. Every day in davening you say twice, Adoin and Aflois, in the bracha of Yishtabach, and in the bracha of Yetzirah. You say Adoin and Aflois. What's the taich of Adoin and Aflois? So the Alter Rebbe says that you taich it, Adoin and Aflois. The Eibishter is the master that performs wonders. Alter Rebbe says, no, it doesn't say Adoin Oisen Aflois. It says Adoin Han Aflois. He's the master of the wonders. See, Alter Rebbe says what that means is the greatest neflois. And the Alter Rebbe says the pella of Yesh Ma'ayin. All the great neflois, the Eibishter is an Odoin. Odoin means he's higher. He's removed of all those ploys. It's not a pella from Bechal. It's not Teifis Mokim. There's no inyan of pella by the Eibishter. And the Alter Rebbe Taich is the same thing in the lashon that we say from the Shira. Oisa pella. The Taich of Oisa pella is similar to the Taich that Chassidus says. I mentioned before, Kulam b'chachma asisa. That even when chachma is like an asiya, then it's not Teifis Mokim. Oisa pella. Even the greatest ploys by the Eibishter, it's Asiyah. It's not Teifis Mokim B'chlal. It's the same like Asiyah Gashmis. So, Adarab, I mean, this in that he's saying, Ein ze Pella Klal, and then in the fact that the Eibishter is in a place where he is not, that's the Pella. By the Eibishter, there's no place. That's as I said. It's the way, in our definition, I mean, in other words, when you want to define Bli Gvul, and when you have the Bli Gvul of the Eibishter, and the Bli Gvul of the Eibishter is mispashet further and further and further, and it goes to a place which is Be'ein Areich, lower and lower. None of that is the Pella. That's not considered to be a Pella. The Pella begins when the Eibishter is in a place where he's not. That's the musig of Pella. It's a deeper definition of Bli Gvul, deeper definition of Ein Sof. Yeah. Okay, there was another point I wanted to say over here. No. Losing my Nakud I wanted to say over here. Another word, the Taich of what the Friediger Rebbe says. Second. The ice over here. Okay, it'll come back to me. I guess let's go a little weiter. And okay. Mamshich ba Mamer. Friediger Rebbe continues. Inyan dairin seif lamata adin tachlis. So where is this inyan of lamata adin tachlis? Koi al olam is biya. So where does this refer to? It refers to olam is biya. While Fishel olam is biya. Hareheim bechinas mata. They are the inyan of mata. The kelim da atzilus heim keguful nishmasa. Kelim of atzilus are compared like a guf in the neshama, as I just explained this. Mashen kim biya heim bechinas levushim. What's the chiddush of levushim? So the chiddush of levushim is not the fact that it's lower than a body. Levushim is lav dafka lower than a body. If you take a body that's not alive and you take levushim, they're both no life to it. That's not the chiddush. It's not that the levushim is a lower type of existence than a guf. It's not. The guf is alive like the neshama. It's part of the neshama. So in the nimshal that means it's a world that's all elokos. Levush is nifrat. Levush is a garment that a person wears that's nifrat from his body. It's not him. That's the vort of the levush, not the fact that it's low. So this is the Nakud that we learn from the Lashon that Pasach Eliyahu says, the Kam Lavushin Tekinas line. What's the type of Kam Lavushin Tekinas line? The Koi al Olam is the Koi al Biyah. The word Lavushin refers to the worlds of Biyah, Sheheim, Rak, Lavushin Bulvad, La'oira Kelim Datzilis. The Lavushim of Biyah, so they're Lavushim for the Kelim of Atzilus. Okay, so that's this is sort of the conclusion of the point that we just learned in the previous ice. Then the Rebbe is going to continue weiter to explain exactly how these levushim work. What's the relation of the levushim to Atzilus?
What's the significance of saying the Ora Kelim Atzilus? You're saying the Ora Atzilus?
Because we're talking here. I mean, the levushim cannot be levushim directly to the air. They could only be levushim to the kelim. First, there has to be an union of kelim. The kelim is it is a metzias, and where does metzias begin? The metzias begins within the world of Elokos Gufa. There's a metzias. Then, from that metzias within Elokos Gufa, there is a levush which is not stam a metzias, but a metzias which is a dava nifrad. Oyer is not an Indian of, it can't be defined as a Metzius even in the world of Elokus. It has no definition to it, B'chlal. It's Pshittis. It's not a Yesh within the world of Elokus, B'chlal. Okay, we're not going to have time to go into the new Indian, so let me just add another point to what we were learning before. I think I asked this question when we learned earlier, and we learned the Mamer the Friedrich Rebbe. It's very interesting that you have here an entire pilpul trying to explain that Oyer Ein Sof Lamata Adin Tachlis refers to Olam as Biyah, to the lower worlds, and it doesn't refer to the higher worlds like Olam as Ein Sof, like Olam Atzilus. Why do you have to go through this entire pilpul? The reason is very, very pashut. The Lashon is Ad Ein Tachlis. So Ad Ein Tachlis has to be the lower worlds. Even if you're going to tell me that in Olam Atzilus there is a Pella that the Eibishter is mispashet there. Let's say it would have been a Pella. But it's not the Lamata Adin Tachlis. It's not the lowest worlds. So what's this whole arichas over here? You know how I know that it comes down lower, because over there it's not a Pella. Over here it is a Pella. So maybe the pshat is, I'm not sure about this, but maybe the pshat is that the emes is, if you want to touch the words Lamata Ad Ein Tachlis, that the Eibishter comes down in the lowest place, and something that has no erech to him, it's be'ein areich, it's bligvul, far from him. Really, that idea of Lamata Adin Tachlis is expressed in Atzilus. You can't come and say that Atzilus is not Lamata Adin Tachlis, and therefore that's not the pshat of Oyer Ein Sof Lamata Adin Tachlis. No, you have this idea in Atzilus as well. Just like you understand that the guf is be'ein arech to the neshama, the guf is called a mata, the guf is called a tachton legabe the neshama. The kelim of Atzilus, chesed, gvura, all of these definitions, legabe the Eibishter is Lamata Adin Tachlis. So therefore, in the taich of those words, it fits. Elamai, what's the hechrich that it's not going on Atzilus? Not mitzad the lashon of Lamata Adin Tachlis, it's mitzad Oyer Ein Sof. Oyer Ein Sof means real Ein Sof. What's the emes inyan of Ein Sof? The emes inyan of Ein Sof is that the Eibishter is completely undefined, that he can be in a place which is a complete pella. And mitzad, the real taich of what Oyer Ein Sof means, that can't be in Atzilus. Because in Atzilus, that means that the Eibishter has the ability to extend bligvul, but as long as it's within a framework of a lakus. To be in a place which is not him, to be in a place which is away from him, that not. Over there, there's a certain gather. Over there, so it's not a lakus. So over there, it's a yesh, it's a different mitzias. So on that, the Mamer says, no, Oyer Ein Sof, what's the real concept of Ein Sof? Ein Sof means completely undefined. And therefore it has to be that Lamata Adin Tachlis is not only referring to the world of Atzilus, which is take in the erech. If you want to talk about Ein Areich, it's take be'ein areich. But the idea of Nifrad is that the Eibishter could be in a place which is not him. That's the real concept of Ein Sof. That's the real Pella. So that's why the Friedrich Rebbe is going through this whole thing, because this is all, really the Friedrich Rebbe in Ois Yud Beis began talking about this idea in the previous Ois of Basi Ligani, that the taich of Oyer Ein Sof is that the same inyan of Ein Sof, which is by the Eibishter himself, by Atzmos. When we say the term Ein Sof on the Eibishter himself, it really, over there by the Eibishter himself, the real concept of Ein Sof is that the Eibishter is completely undefined. Completely. In Oyer, when you use the term Oyer Ein Sof, so usually you think that in Oyer, Ein Sof means a concept of bligvul. Bligvul is not undefined. Bligvul means the Eibishter could extend and be megal himself lower and lower and lower until the lowest place, but it's not necessarily undefined. Completely, like the lashon that's used usually is bli geder. The Eibishter has no but the emes is Oyer Ein Sof means that the same Ein Sof which is by the Eibishter himself. The Oyer is a reflection of the Eibishter, right? What's Oyer? Oyer, we learned about this last year. Oyer is me'ena moyer. It's completely reflecting the same power of the Eibishter himself. And just like the Eibishter himself is koil yachal, and there's no gedarim by the Eibishter himself whatsoever, that exact same definition of Ein Sof, or rather lack of definition of Ein Sof, is in the Oyer as well. And therefore the real Pella of the Oyer Ein Sof, Lamata Adin Tachlis, is that he could be in a place which is not him. And that's Dafkin Biyah. Okay. It's a Shem tomorrow. We'll go to the next subject. Continuing in the Mamer of Basi Ligani, Tafshin Chav Gimel, on top of page Yudalad in this contrast. It's towards the beginning of Sif Gimel, where it says a Moisif. Second line from the top of the page. Okay, so we began learning this ice yesterday, and Friedrich Rebbe explains that the difference between Atzilus and Bria, or really Biyah, is the difference between Gufel and Nishmasa and Levushim. What's the difference between Gufel and Nishmasa and Levushim? So Bekitzer, the Nakuda is that Gufel and Nishmasa is connected to the Neshama. It's a Keli that becomes one with the Neshama. And on that, it says, that the Kelim of Atzilus, even though the Kelim of Atzilus are Be'ein Aroich to Elokos, and that's why it would theoretically be possible to say that the Taich of Lamata Aden Tachlis refers to Kelim Atzilus. But because they're one, so therefore it's not a real Pella. The fact that Elokos is in Skala there, that's not called a Pella. It's all still within a certain Geder where Elokos could express itself. Masha'enkin, this, that the Eibishter is in Skala in Levushim, and Levushim means that it's a place that's, so to speak, not him. It's a place that the Eibishter is not naturally in Skala there at all, because the whole idea of Bria, Biyah, is a place of Pirud, an other separated from him, and the Eibishter is Mispasha there, and he's Mizgala there. That's the Pella. Okay, let's continue. After the Friedrich Rebbe brings this point, that the worlds of Biyah are Levushim for Atzilos. Right, so that's based on the Lashon that it says in Pasach Eliyahu, Vushin Tekinis line. The Lashon of Pasach Eliyahu, that's all the way to the beginning of Zayar, the introduction in Zayar there. So then the Friedrich Rebbe adds, and he brings from another place in the Zayar. Mamer, top of the page. Mamer, Imay Law, Mekanana B'Kursaya. So Zayar explains that Imay Law, which refers, Ima, always refers to Bina. So where does Bina primarily become expressed? In which world? Outside of Atzilus, below Atzilus, that's B'Kursaya. It's in Kursaya, which literally means a throne, the holy throne of the Eibishter, and that refers to the world of Bria. Imay B'chinas Atzilus. Imay refers to Bina Atzilus, Harei Mekanana B'Kursaya, the revelation of, or the way it nests, or it's fully revealed, or it's expressed in the world of Bria. Olam HaKisei Shehu Olam HaBria. Why is Olam HaKisei called Olam HaBria? Just like a Kisei, when a person sits down, so there's a Yashvus, so it's a Yerida. The Yerida from the world of Atzilus, which is Elokos, which is all miyuchad with the Eibishter, to the world of Kisei, where the throne of the Eibishter is there, in the world of Bria. What does this really mean? That Bina is revealed in Atzilus, in Bria. Bria is a world where there's a tremendous Havana Vasaga and Gatlichkeit. Bina is a world where the Metzias of that world is masik to the greatest extent. I mean, it's masik very strongly the Chayes Elokhi, the godliness that's revealed in it. What's the idea of Havana? Bina. Bina is a full understanding. So what is the Metzias of the world of Bina? The whole Metzias of the world of Bina is this, that of Bria, that is the world. Again, the world of Bria is the fact that Bina Ilah, Imeilah, Bina is Mekana B'Kursaya. It's there, it's revealed there, it's expressed there. That's what the world of Bria is all about. So if you think of Bria, before the Rebbe said that it's a place of Pirud, that it's separated from Elokos. If you think of that in the simple literal sense, the way we understand separation, what's separation of Elokos? Separation means there's no recognition of godliness. Person sees himself, I'm here. That's the definition of separation. That's not the definition of separation. That's maybe the separation we understand in this world. Or that's a separation by Pare. Pare goes and says, Li Oiri V'Ani Esisini. That's already much lower. Such a kind of concept of separation. That's not what it means over here when it says Pirud. The very fact that there's a Metzias, there's a world that exists, and it understands the Eibishter, that's called Pirud. That's the separation over here. The world of Atzilus, there's no such a thing that there's an existence of a world. There's an existence of Kalim. And they are here. And they understand the godliness which is their chayes, which is revealed in them. The Kalim of Atzilus are Getlichkeit. They are Getlichkeit. They're an expression of Eira Bligvul, or maybe Eira Gvul, whatever, however you define whatever Kalim are, but it's all Getlichkeit L'chatchila. There's no musig of pirud. There's no concept of epsa, something that's understanding. Enochanami, but that's the whole chiddush about Atzilus. That's why there's such a big arichis and chiddush about Atzilus, because on one hand, the kelim of Atzilus are atzir. They're defined in a specific but it's not. But it's really all alakus. It's not here the place to go into the whole arichas. I just want to clarify based on what you see right over here that imay elam akana b'kersaya, that the pirud of the world of Bria is a very subtle kind of a pirud. It's not the kind of pirud that we speak about in the later levels here. Okay, let's go weiter. And then he says, Kersaya is the throne, the kiseh. He says, Olam HaKiseh, Shu Olam HaBriya. Then Shis Sfiran, the 6 spheres of Atzilus, which are the Midas, Yitzirah. Where are they revealed? They're revealed in the world of Yitzirah. That's where they are expressed. In other words, that's what defines the 6 spheres. So that defines the world of Yitzirah. Yitzirah is Midas. Right, so Midas, as we know, is much lower than Bina, than Avona Vasaga. The whole idea of Avona Vasaga is that a person is ready to lift himself up out of himself and to see and understand things objectively. That's Bina. Right? So even though Bina is lower than Chachma, Chachma is Koyach Ma. Chachma is a Keli for Bittul. It's not Chlal Metzias Adam. Mashenkin Bina is the Havana Vasaga, the Tfisa of the person. How I take this, how I understand it. Mashenkin Midas is much lower. Shisfirim B'Yitzirah means that it's the Midas which feels the yeshus of the person is much more there in the Midas. So that's what the world of Yitzirah is about. And V'Oifen Basi. Oifen, which is a lashon that's used in the Merkava, but it refers to Malchus. The Malchus of Atzilus is revealed and expressed in the world of Asiya. Okay, till here's the lashon of the Friedrich Rebbe. So the question really is, the Rebbe doesn't spell out here, but the question is, why does the Friedrich Rebbe bring these details here? And l'chayra adarabah, the Friedrich Rebbe l'chatchila starts off saying that all the worlds of Biyah are all one in this sense. All worlds of Biyah are levushim. They're all called levushim, being that they're, what's the idea of a levush? Pirud, that they're separated. So when you see over here the Friedrich Rebbe then spelling out the various different details of the worlds of Bria, Yitzirah, and Asiya. Why? Why is he spelling out all these details? So the simple pshat would seem, because the Friedrich Rebbe wants to elaborate and explain that even though, generally speaking, they're all considered to be levushim, and in that sense, in that definition of levushim, they're all one and the same thing, but more in detail, they're not exactly the same. Bria is coming down one level, which is Bina, then there's Yitzirah, which is even lower, and Asiya is the lowest. So the connecting to the point there, Lamata Adin Tachlis, the Lamata Adin Tachlis in Olam HaBriya is not the same as the Lamata Adin Tachlis in Yitzirah or the Lamata Adin Tachlis in Asiya. It goes down lower and lower. That's l'chayra what it would seem like, why the Friedrich Rebbe adds this lashon, Kamayim imi lo b'kanan b'kersaya. But the Rebbe is going to explain, no, punkt verkehrt. The fact that the Friedrich Rebbe elaborates all these details is not to show that Bria, Yitzirah, and Asiya are 3 distinct elements that are different from one each other. Adarabah. The Friedrich Rebbe is bringing up all these details to show how, in Lagabi, the subject that we're speaking about over here, Bria, Yitzirah, and Asiya are one inyan.
But it's the 3.
Oh, exactly. This relates back to the Tlas Alma, which will be brought soon over here. Just like we saw before already in the Torah of the Baal Shem Tov, that when you have the 3 floors of the Teva, Tachtiyim, Shniyim, Shlishim, the bottom, middle, and top floor. So according to the final pshat that he said here, the Baal Shem Tov said that it refers to the 3 general ilamas. What are the 3 general ilamas? The ilamas that are higher than Atzilus, which includes various different levels, but it's all in one category. Then Atzilus, and then Biyah. Biyah is the lowest floor of the Teva, and that's Bri, Yitzirah, Asiya are all included in one. So by the Friedrich Rebbe bringing these details here of what each ilam of Bri, Yitzirah, Asiya are, he's actually trying to explain that they're really all one akodah. How's that? How could it be? He's spelling out how each item is distinct and different one from another. How could it be that he's trying to say that it's all one inyan? And really, there's also another question. What's the point of saying that it's one inyan? Why, for the pshat of this Mamer, is it relevant to say that it's all one inyan? We're trying to explain Lamata Mata Adein Tachlis. So to explain Lamata Mata Adein Tachlis, the Friedrich Rebbe goes through various different details. So each, another step of mata, lower. So l'chayda over here, punkt fakert, we're trying to explain how Bri is different, and Yitzir is different, and Asi is different. But no, the Rebbe will explain it's one inyan. Let's see. So we can say as follows. When the Friedrich Rebbe brings all these details about these 3 elements, what's the point there? What is he trying to explain? This point, that biyah, these three worlds of biyah are levushim for the world of Atzilos. So how is this? In what way are they levushim? How do they relate to the world of Atzilos? So it's not in the following manner. The world of Bria, that's a garment. In other words, garment reveals. What's the idea of a garment? I'm always losing the term garment. Garment is when you reveal something, right? If a person, just like Beruchnius, the idea of a garment is to reveal. Machshava dibra ma'isa is levusha nefesh. It's to reveal your personality. If you have ideas, you have feelings, how is it revealed? Through machshava dibra ma'isa. The levushim begashmis. What are levushim begashmis? It reveals. It allows you to express who you are. A person dresses. It expresses who he is. But again, levushim is an expression which is nifrad of you. It's not. It's just like the levush begashmis and even the levush beruchnis. It's nifrad from the person. So these levushim. So simply you would think that olam abriya is the levush for the world of Atzilus. Briya is the next world. So therefore that's the levush that expresses the world of Atzilus in its world. Yitzira levush lebriya, and then Yitzira is below Briya, so that's the levush for the world of Briya. And Vasiya levush leYitzira, and then Asiya is the next world, so Asiya is the levush that expresses the world of Yitzira. So they're lined up one on top of the other, Momayla Lamata, in this way. Right? This is the way we always understand the concept of Seder Shtalshalos, that each one of these worlds is one below the other. And it says this beferish in Chassidus. It's not only, Rebbe is not only saying over here something that could have been so, or that you would have made a mistake to say so, but it actually is so. Looking at it from one angle, this is the way the Seder Shtalshalos is. The Lashon that's brought in some places in Chassidus is that you have the Malchus of Atzilus, so they have the Chitzenius of Malchus that becomes the Keser for Bria, and so too from Bria to Yitzira, from Yitzira to Asiya. It develops, it goes just like it is in the kaiches of a person. From the seichel comes the midis, from the midis comes afterwards later the lower, the behavior of the person, the ma'aser, right? That Rebbe is saying over here that Bria is the seichel, bina, and then from bina comes the world of midis, which is Yitzira, and from Yitzira comes the ma'aser b'payel, which is the world of Asiyah. So in the seder shtalshus of a person, that's the way it works as well. When you understand something, so that brings about feelings. When you feel for something, that brings about action, right? Huh? Okay, let's see what the Rebbe says there. Okay, but now if that's the case, so then it would come out that Yitzira and Asiya are not levushim for Atzilus. They're not related directly to Atzilus. Asiya is a levush for Yitzira, and Yitzira is a levush for Bria. So now, if that would be the case, yesh makom loima, you would be able to say, shamas bekashvachta erein soif, if we're praising the Eibishter here. That lamata din tachlis. So then, what does that mean? Lamata din tachlis b'nigeya le'spashtus v'gilui ba'olam habriya bilvad. What does that mean? What's the lamata din tachlis? The lamata din tachlis is in the world of Bria. The world of Bria, which is after Atzilus, right? So it's the levush of Atzilus, and what does levush of here mean? Levush means that it comes into a place of separation. So that includes what? The world of Bria. Shaharei gamzeh dvar pela. That itself is already a pella that the Eibusher could be in a place which is other, which is outside of him, so to speak. Okay, that's what you would say. In other words, the Friediger Rebbe in the Mamer is trying to prove the idea that the Giluv of Eirin Seif Lamata Din Tachlis. What's the taich of Lamata Din Tachlis? It's not only in Atzilus, but it's even in the lower worlds. So what's his raya to say this? Can't be in Atzilus. Even though, as I mentioned yesterday already, the emphasis, the taich of the words, Lamata Adin Tachlis, would be able to be explained that it refers to Atzilus. Because the emphasis, even Atzilus, is also Be'ein Areich to Elokos. It's like a gufta and a shama. But no, that's not the pshal. Why? Because Ein Zeh Pella. That's not the real Pella of the Eibishter being in a place where he's not, the Eibishter being in a place of Nifrad. But in Bria, the world of Bria itself, that's already where the Pella of Eirin Seif Lamata Adin Tachlis is already revealed and expressed there. That Bria, which is a place of Nifrad, it's an other, there's a Metzias, that Metzias recognizes Taka Elokos, but it's a Metzias. So over there, there's the expression of Elokos, there's the Gilui of Eirein Seif, that's the Pella. So who says that the taich of Zoya, Mata Adin Tachlis, refers to the lower world, Yitzira and Asiya as well? Especially if you say that Yitzira comes after Bria, and then Asiya comes after Yitzira, so then it's not necessary to taich the lashon of the Zoyar that it refers to the lower Oilamis. There's no hechach to say this.
The Pella is taka by Bria,
Yeah.
but there's a bigger Pella by Yitzira and Asiya. L'chayra.
Legabi this nakuda l'chayr, it's not a bigger pella. Legabi this nakuda.
But the pile Asiya is lower than Yitzira and lower than Asiya, then lower than Bria.
Yeah.
But it's more separated.
This.
Please.
One second. Legabi this nakuda. Legabi this point. The Eibusha could be in a place which is nifrad of him, that he could be in his gala in a place that's not him. That nakuda, that pella is be'etzem the same in all of the ilamis, in Bri, Yitzira, and Asiya. Be'etzem the same idea. I always mention this, I mentioned this mashal 10 times already, benegeh to a person that's trying to teach a dvar seichel. Right, so you can teach a dvar seichel to someone that's on his level, someone that's lower than his level. You can teach it even to a little child. You can bring it down lower and lower. But then you have somebody that could do a wonder. He could teach a dvar seichel to someone that has no seichel b'chlal. That's a pella. Right. But over here you're going to start being mechalik. One person can teach a dvar seichel to a table. Another person could teach a dvar seichel to a plant. And another person could teach a dvar seichel to a shoyer v'chamayr. It's not me. So yeah, I'm not. The level of chayis, the level of they're not the same. Daimim tzemech chayim adaba, 3 different categories. But legabe this nakuda, that you have a revelation of godliness in a place which is pirud, which is not him. It's one nakuda. It's the same inyan. It's really one nakuda. So if so, al pi cheshbon, it comes out 2 opposite points. On one hand, if so, really, Bri, Tzira, Asiya, Legabi, this Nakuda of Pirut, Bri, Tzira, and Asiya is one of the same thing. The taka 3 worlds in the same category. And that's really what the Rebbe is trying to explain here. Yeah, that Biyah is all one and the same thing. But on the other hand, the Rebbe is saying, if you are going to say that in the Seder Ishtalshlus of the Elamis, Bria is related to Atzilus, but then Yitzira and Asiya are lower worlds. Yitzira is related to Bria and Asiya is related to Yitzira. So then, when the Zohar says Lamata Adin Tachlis, maybe that means the Lamata Adin Tachlis is just the world of Bria. Who says that it's in the world of Yitzira and Asiya? It's a hechrich. Who says that there's a hechrich that Ein Sof is Nizgala and Yitzira and Asiya? If the inyan of Lamata, the Pella of Lamata Adin Tachlis, is Nizgala in the world of Bria, or it's expressed by the Gilu in the world of Bria, so that's where the inyan of Lamata Adin Tachlis is. In the simple pshat of what the Rebbe is trying to say over here is, there's a few different points to this, but in the simple pshat of what the Rebbe is trying to say is, there's a chiddush in this whole Mamer here. This whole Mamer is coming to be mechadish, that Ein Sof is present in the Elamis. Right? Not only does the Eibush create these elements, how did the Rebbe start this whole inyan? Not only does the Eibush create these elements, and therefore you could see a koyach of Ein Sof in the creation because the Eibush created it, but there's actually a gilui of Ein Sof in all of the elements. There's the shvach of the Eibush himself, that he is nisgala and mispashet in all the elements, even in the lower elements. Right? So the Friedrich Rebbe wants to be machriach this inyan, that Ein Sof is nisgala and mispashet in all the elements. What's the hechrich? The hechrich is the taich of the words lamata adein tachlis. The only way to explain lamata adein tachlis, the emesa pshat, the deepest pshat, the real understanding of lamata adein tachlis, has to include all 3 elements bri, yitzira, asiyah. But if you're gonna say that bria is the only world that's related directly to Atzilus, and the lower worlds are related, each one they're lined up one below another, so then you could say that the pella is nisgala and bria. The lower elements, they're just Yitzira is developing another prat of Bria. Asiya is developing another prat of Yitzira. But they're not really maisif. They're not really maisif anything in the Ikka Nakuda. The Ikka Nakuda is already achieved in Bria. That's the Pella where Ein Sof is. So who says the Eibush is Nizgala in the lower worlds? So that's why the Friedrich Rebbe says, Elo Inyan Alavushin Hu Ba'ifin. So what's the pshat in the Lavushin, the way the Friedrich Rebbe explains it here? Shekol Gilmel Eilemis Biyah Nachshavim Kamoy Eilem Echad. That all the 3 Eilemis, the Levushim, they are Levushim for Atzilus. And therefore, in this sense, all 3 Eilemis are considered to be like one Inyan. They're like one Eilem. They're all 3 Levushim for Atzilus. Kanal b'Pirush HaMaim. So here brings Taka the pshat the way it was explained before. What's the pshat of Tlas Al Menisle Lekutche Berichu? That the Eibush has the 3 Eilemis corresponding to the 3 floors of the Teva. Shehem Eilemis Ein Sof. Then Eilam Atzilus. And Eilam is Biyah, which means Hainu Eilam is Biyah. Nachshavim Leilam Echad. The worlds of Biyah are all considered to be one Eilam. Shekulam biyachad, all these three worlds together, heim levushim lo'elam atzilus. They're all levushim to the world of atzilus. They're not levushim the way we explained it, one below another. That bria is the levush of atzilus, yitzira to bria, asiya to bria, or asiya to yitzira rather. No, they're all three together, one inyan, which is a levush to atzilus. So to prove this, he brings from what it says in the Zohar, that bina of Atzilos, that's revealed and expressed where? In Bria. And the six spheres of Atzilos is expressed in Yitzira, and v'oifim Basi, and Malchus of Atzilos is expressed in Asiyah. So what do you understand from this Zohar? So he's not bringing this Zohar to point out how each one of these elements are different and distinct, one below another. Punkt fakert. He's trying to show how all these elements are one inyan that are levushim for Atzilos. So don't think that the pshat over here is that bina of Atzilus comes into the world of Bria, and then Azayim Islabish Elam Bria Bailam Yitzir, and then from Bria comes down to the world of Yitzir, and then the Yitzir Basiya, from Yitzir goes into Asiya. Kiyim, rather, Shekol Asfiris Datzilos, all of the spheres of Atzilus, from Bina to Malchus, Bina Zosh is Sfira and Malchus Oifen Sheheim Kaima Achas, all these spheres make up one unit, they make up one Tzir, one of Tzir Adam, one Kaima. Mislapshim b'chol gimel olam is biyah. They each one are mislabish and olam is biyah together. The bina in bria, the sphere, the six midas, the spheres in Yitzira, and Malchus in Asiya. Ela sheslapsh zui ba'ofen shebina mekayim b'olam bria zah b'olam Yitzira Malchus b'olam Asiya.
No, the mislapshim b'chol olam means more of them are mislabish in every olam.
No. It doesn't say that.
No, Ela said, what's the Ela then?
Mislapshim b'chol gimel olam is biyah.
The main thing is that.
It doesn't say, I don't think that's what it means. What it means is it's a kaima achas. This kaima achas, this whole tzir, each one they're together. This is the expression of the world of Atzilus. And these three different levels are all three coming down. Each one of them make up a kaima achas. Bina without midas is sort of incomplete. Midas without bina, they make up that kaima achas. Just like a person has no emotions, he's missing a major part of his personality. There's the seichel, the midas, and the behavior bepoil and maisa bepoil. So that makes up a kaima achas of a person, and that kaima achas gets transplanted, so to speak, in the place of pirud in these three worlds of biyah.
So in this world of Asiya, let's say it's only Malchus.
Correct.
Nothing else.
Yeah. Well, yeah, okay. Yeah, but you have to understand, Malchus itself is also a kaimish leima, meaning there's chachma sheba Malchus, bina sheba Malchus. So that's why you have in this world also an union of seichel, but it's a different type of seichel than it is in the world of bria. World of bria, the havana vasagan alakus over there is not bina sheba Malchus. Over there it's bina ilah makanana b'kersaya. So why is the Friedrich Rebbe saying all of this?
It's called one seer.
Kaima achas, one unit. Move on. So now, based on this, we understand. So it refers to all three elements that the Eibush is Nizgala and till Asiya. Since all three are levushim for Eir Atzilus. So therefore, when we say that this chiddush that the Eibush is Nizgala, not only in the world of Atzilus, which is like a guftu and the shama, but the Eibush is Nizgala in the world of Bria, which is a levush. The levush is really going on all three. All three are the same thing because they're all three a levush to the world of Atzilus. Okay, that's the Pirush HaMilas of what the Rebbe is saying here. But I think this begs for a further clarification. I mean, what is really the significance of these two types of zdarim, of looking at the worlds of Biyah? The Seder that he says that Bria is a levush for Atzilus, and then Yitzira is a levush for Bria, and Asiya is a levush for Yitzira. That's a Seder of Seder Shtalshalos that's brought many places. And over here, the Teichen Enyan of what the Rebbe is speaking about over here, we use a different Seder. We use the Seder of Biyah being one Metzias. Why Taka? What's the? I mean, the way it's put over here is there's a hechrich. Friedrich Rebbe is trying to prove that Eir Seif comes down all the way to Asiya. But what's taka the teichen achilik between these two types of zdarim? They're both true. Over here it's negeya, this nakuda. Why? Okay, try to explain it tomorrow, Mitzvah Shem.